Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Digital Media Sync this very, very snowy, windy morning. I hope you are all doing well. I am Giulia Gambali from Agents of Branding and Digital Media Sync, and I have a guest today. I'm so excited. I have been talking to, and you know her, you've seen her at least a couple of times, Randye Spina, and I've been talking to her a lot, and we've been having a lot of conversations in general about nonprofits and communicating nonprofits and nonprofits having a marketing mindset as well, right? So there's things that we can learn from that. So I'm just going to go ahead and bring Randye right on, and we're going to have a little discussion, and then we also, like I said, we have a presentation. She made a presentation for us, so I'm super excited about that. Hey, Randye.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Happy snowy Tuesday.
It is. And I also just saw on the news that the groundhogs, whatever, there's going to be 6 weeks of winter. What happened?
Well,
I don't know. There's always 6 weeks of winter. That's the thing. It's like there's 6 weeks until the actual official spring.
Right. Yeah, Puxatawny Phil. So we'll see if he's right or not.
I'm glad you said it because I can't say the first word.
It's too early in the morning.
And I was just saying too, is like, I didn't have coffee. I was like, I need like a different space.
I'll share with you.
Thank you so much. So before I pop the presentation on, tell us a little bit about like where you're coming from too with this, because we've had the conversation before. It's like, hey, let's bring this online and start talking to people.
Yeah, so I recently was offered a board position with Arts Alliance of Stratford and artsallianceofstratford.org if anybody would like to check us out. And I am doing their membership and marketing role for them, which is a new role. So, you know, I've done the nonprofit board thing before for a professional organization. Actually, when I lived in California, it was the Direct Marketing Association. But you know, they were a marketing association, right? So
yeah, so of course,
exactly. So for I was their membership director. You know, things have evolved and changed quite a bit, obviously. And, you know, I follow quite a number of nonprofits on Twitter. And, you know, unless you're somebody like Jose Andres from, World Central Kitchen.
Yeah.
You know, he's just a superstar. But, you know, most nonprofits don't have, a world famous chef as their spokesperson.
Right.
And so, it's challenging. I mean, obviously budgets are an issue, but also skill set,
Mm-hmm.
I would have to guess that very close to 100% of nonprofits are started by someone who has a passion, just like Arts Alliance, for some area, whether it's art or food or animals or whatever it might be. And so often it's just a matter of skill set, and working with tight budgets. And several years ago, I did a workshop for the Connecticut Association of Nonprofits up in Hartford. And, they see the same thing with I think they have 500 members, and they see the same thing across the state. So, now more than ever, right, nonprofits are being asked to, shoulder a heavy load in society. Whether it's, feeding hungry people or sheltering or, there are a lot of issues going on in the world. And there's a lot of help out there, but for those who need it, but sometimes you just can't find them or you don't know that they exist, and then they can't carry out their mission.
Yeah, exactly. And just in the New Haven County, I believe there's like 140 nonprofits, right? And they're all vying for the same the same pool of money, basically.
Right.
So I think here we're talking about it from the perspective of, I'm going to bring your beautiful, beautiful. I love that you used purple presentation. And you have control of your presentation, right? Yeah. Okay.
I believe so.
I know.
We'll find out in a minute.
Giulia's trying to have control of very little this morning.
Okay, no worries.
So this is, again, thinking about it from the terminology between for-profit businesses and nonprofit organization, right, is very, very different. Yet there's many aspects that each can take from the other. And so in this case, it's marketing, right? And you never really think of it, they talk about communications and fundraising and development and that sort of thing. But really when it comes down to it, there's a marketing component in there for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Getting your message out is vital to, fulfilling your mission, certainly.
Yeah. So do we want to just jump right in and get started?
Sure. I'm ready if you are.
I'm ready.
All right.
I can hear the wind outside.
Is that what I hear? Wow.
Yeah, it's
oh my.
Scary. All right. So do you see it? Do you have it up on your screen and everything, or?
I do. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. So, 7 is a nice round lucky number. So why not? Right. So 7 marketing tips. So first one, I think, is show your website some love, because your website is your home base for everything. And I had an experience last week while I was looking at the website of a gallery in, I forget where they were. I want to say Madison, Connecticut. Okay. One of our members was showing there. And so I went to the gallery's website, and it wasn't updated. The footer was 2017 or something. It looked very much like an old-fashioned website. It was hard to navigate. They didn't even have a donate button, or, they didn't have an up-to-date exhibit showing. It's a big overlook, and check all your links and make sure everything works. Crazy stuff happens. So somebody needs to be doing this on a fairly regular basis. And then, of course, I'll talk a little bit in more depth about the donate button, but, is it above the fold? Is it, right on top? It should be in your, top level navigation bar.
Right.
And then if you're a member of, Charity Navigator and, all that stuff, make sure that GuideStar and all that, make sure that it's on your website. Right, right near somewhere near the donate button, so that people can look you up. And several years ago, there was a big flack in Connecticut about I don't even remember what it was, but it was some shady dealings with nonprofits. And so those two credibility organizations are really important. People want to know that when they give their money, that it's going to a good cause and an actual nonprofit that is going to use the money to carry out their mission, whatever that might be. So, I think your home base is, you should always be checking your website, right? It's deserving of love for sure. And I'll go to number 2. So communication efforts. So how well do you tell your story? I mean, if you've ever seen those, I think it's the ASPCA commercials that make you cry on
Oh, the heart-rending
channel
one.
whatever. Yeah. I mean, like that article that I sent you. I mean, probably every single animal organization in the United States has my name and address at this point. That's definitely my soft spot. That and some others as well. But how well do you tell your story? It is nonprofits typically have to tell a very emotional story, and whether again it's food, it's art, that it's animals, it's shelter, it's education, it's early
Mhm.
childhood stuff. I mean, there are just so many. Um, so the best way to do that is to capture and use emails. I mean, you have to do that. MailChimp is free. Why not?
Yeah,
And you can go on YouTube and you can get some tutorials and you can figure out how to use it.
mhm.
And you need to be communicating with your constituents, and at a
Yeah,
minimum, to tell your story. And then, depending upon what kind of nonprofit you are, so for the Arts Alliance, we do two email news blasts a month. One is a schedule of everything coming up, and workshops, and it's at meetings and things like that. And then the other one is going to be more lifestyle oriented.
right.
But we're communicating. We're telling people like, hey, you've paid us a membership fee, and this is what we're doing for you. It's really
Exactly.
important.
And
Um,
and that's the big thing too. I just wanted to interrupt for 1 second
sure,
because of the
please
two
go right
points
ahead.
that I think you made. One was about, first of all, you had mentioned MailChimp, right? And I know a lot of times, a lot of these organizations are small organizations and they're being pushed into these big, bulky, CRMs and stuff like that, which is just, if you're coming from an Excel work, like I've had people that I've worked with that I ask, where's your database? It's like, well, it's on an Excel worksheet right now. It's like, okay, how do you get them from an Excel worksheet over to something that they can manage? MailChimp is a CRM. It's a
Right,
perfectly manageable system. Larger organizations definitely can utilize that, with lots of resources, can utilize that. But using something like a MailChimp or a Constant Contact or something, or iContact, something that's like very nice and simple.
right,
The other thing that you had mentioned was how often you the organization sends the newsletter out. And that's definitely something that we take into consideration because I know the organization that I work with is the literacy volunteers, and we think about, how we send stuff out, and it's basically, the constituents are different than the donors, right? So
right,
they want information,
right,
but they also don't want to, we always think about, it's like, okay, if we send out two newsletters a month or two emails a month, one is going to be storytelling or information, or when we're doing a fundraiser or something like that. And then there's always going to be that donate button too, right? The same as
right,
the website, but it's not always an ask, right? Because you're going to push people away with ask, 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 ask. So it's like information, data, nice story. Here's what we're doing. Ask.
right, right. And people are willing to give to organizations whose missions are, aligned with their own values, whatever
Yeah.
those might be. But to have that feel good, so again, like World Central Kitchen,
Mm-hmm.
you don't have the budget for that. I mean, that's like a global organization run by, like a hero, in my opinion.
Yeah.
um, but you can emulate a lot of what they do,
Mm-hmm.
and what they do best really is storytelling. That's
Yeah.
what they do best. It doesn't hurt to have a chef with a globally recognized name to get in the news, but
Yeah.
that's another thing. I'll talk about that in the next tip. You don't have to. I mean, the world needs good news, so public relations really works. And to communicate your value, is through video too. So there's an organization called nonprofitsource.com, and a stat I got from them is 57% of people who watch a nonprofit video will actually donate. So people want access to the stories, and they
Yeah.
want to get excuse me, information as to how their money is being used. So
Exactly.
video, I mean, do it on your phone, and then upload it. It should go on your website. It should go in your newsletters. It should go definitely, YouTube is an awesome channel for nonprofits for this reason. And I was doing some research yesterday, and, most nonprofits don't have a YouTube channel. And I found that really interesting. So I think that's something that, again, right, these are all free resource. I mean, they take time, of course.
Yeah, that's the thing too, is that there's time. And I think, making sure that if you have a board or an advisory board, or, how do you use your staff resources? How do you use your board resources? How do you use your volunteer resources?
Right. And it is not that different than building any kind of an organization.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you need to take a step back and have a look at, where are the skills gaps? And what kind of people should you be asking to sit on your board, or volunteer or be on committees, or because you do need someone with marketing and digital skills. I mean, there's no way around it in this world, right? So,
and especially now, people organizations are really I'm loath to use the word, but kind of scrambling still as to when they could do more live events and live fundraising and more peer-to-peer, word of mouth. And now it's like everything kind of has to, really has to be online. So now not only are we vying for the same pot, but we're vying for it in the same place.
Right. And I have to say, that's one thing that Arts Alliance has done so well. As soon as the pandemic hit, and they couldn't have live art shows or in-person meetings anymore, they shifted totally to Zoom, of course. And we have people in our database now who are members and who do the figure drawing sessions and all of that, who are global.
Right.
And they find, they want to practice their figure drawing skill sets. And not a lot of organizations do that.
They do that, yeah.
18 or over, and, there are nude models, and, it has certain circumstances around it that are a little bit different than most other events. And that's just one thing that they do. But that particular, those figure drawing sessions are pulling models and teachers from all over the United States.
Yeah.
So it's almost been a boon in one way, that it isn't so geographically concentrated right now, and they've been able to actually expand, and why not? Like tonight is our free monthly meeting, in case anyone's interested.
Yeah, right.
If you have a piece of art that you want to show, or you want to give or get feedback, or just network with other artists, come meet us, and come say hi, and then you're going to fall in love with us, and you're going to want to join. It's just really
right.
that.
And that's the other thing too, is having a very clear path of action. So the arts organization is lucky because it offers, there's actually a product, right, to offer, right? It's the classes, it's, the membership comes with. When you're talking about other organizations, again, like the Literacy Volunteers or Boys and Girls Club, or, again, it's like the audience can seem somewhat, those who are being served are sometimes different than those who are given, but not necessarily, and so I'm hoping I'm not jumping ahead of your tips, but this is something that we say a lot, for-profit, is knowing your your audiences, right? And it's like, who are your constituents? Who are your donors? Where, an alum, right? So
Definitely.
understanding who is being served. A lot of times when kids or teens or young adults are being served, and then they have a story, and then you follow along with them, and then they get a job or they're very successful or whatever that is. These are all things that like you can come back to those stories, but also they can be donors, and then they can also be peer to peer because they tell the story. So making sure that you have that encapsulated all the time in a way that you can give, present to others, and those others can present for you.
Right. So it's funny, as you're talking, I was just thinking about something that I read on LinkedIn last year. Um, there's that actor's name, Idris Elba.
Yeah.
And so he is was grew up in poverty, I think on the outskirts of London, and he was part of a very early startup that Richard Branson, a nonprofit that Richard Branson had done with reaching out to children who showed some kind of, I guess, artistic promise that were, that couldn't otherwise afford to take art classes or whatever. And
Right.
so Idris Elba came out about a year ago and said that he was one of the first cohort of this nonprofit. And
Mm-hmm.
and like, what a beautiful story that is. I mean, he's this world famous actor now, and it was wonderful for him to come out and say all of the great work and the things that helped him. So
Yeah.
yeah, definitely keeping in touch with alum and people who were successful. And again, if you're running an animal organization, things are a little bit different, but there are ways to do that as well.
Right. The
So
point
just
being is, yeah, like understanding what the strengths are. So even,
right,
I've never actually said these words before for a nonprofit, but actually kind of doing a SWOT analysis, right? What are
right,
the strengths? What are the things? What are the weaknesses? Where do you have to pick up on? What are the opportunities, right? So
right.
understanding that there's opportunities by following along, um, with people. And I guess with animals too. Elephants never forget.
And listen, dogs, get parts in movies,
Yeah,
so
so, you just never. Well, just because I think too, I had read something about an elephant that was rescued as a baby. Oh, it was okay. So Jane Goodall has I don't want to go too off track, but this is pretty amazing. Jane Goodall has a podcast called Popecast, and she
right,
had Dave Matthews on, and apparently this baby elephant that was rescued um, came up to him and was like, stuck the trunk on his body or whatever, and he's like, let the elephant do that. When the elephant does that, it
right.
won't forget you. So he did, and then years later, or maybe months later, I don't know, because he still had a bottle. The elephant came back to him and basically like handed him his food, to like feed him. And it's like because the
Wow.
elephant remembered. And so this was something where it's like it was the animal sanctuary, the there was a story there, right? And there was an animal.
Right,
So it's
right.
true.
Yeah, right, right, definitely.
All right.
Um,
All
so
that
the last thing I want to say
too.
about um, yeah, yeah. The last thing about communication is, add a blog to your website for search engine
Mhm.
optimization purposes. And, typically you don't have a big marketing budget, so you can't be projecting out. You have to be able to be found.
Yeah.
And the one way to do that is, so my plan for the Alliance is to that second newsletter of the month that's more lifestyle oriented, basically copy paste into a blog and tag it. And
Mhm.
there's it's interesting, I also want to say in MailChimp, by the way, you can tag and you can build a database within MailChimp, which I actually just learned that last week because I've never really worked with MailChimp. When I had my agency for all those years, I was a constant contact user. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm just really learning MailChimp right now. And it is, it's easier. It's become easier to use. I remember years ago it wasn't, but now it is. And you can use it as a database and you can sort
Yeah.
by members, non-members, and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and one thing I found too, when I had my agency, is that that's what I used to do. I would do my monthly newsletter, and I would create, my content for the month, whatever the topic might be, and then I would take snips of that and use that for all my social media, and then I would also copy paste it with some adjustments, of course, as needed, and that would be my blog. And I
Right.
turned off the comments on the blog. It was just to feed the SEO, and it worked. I mean,
Yeah.
it worked like a charm. So it is, again, if you're creating this content anyway, the multiple ways that you can use it to enhance, your online efforts is pretty endless, really. It's almost a matter of I have to work hard to rein it in, as opposed to, because there are so many things that you can do with it, that are time consuming and all of that. So, okay, public relations. So, PR is your friend. One of the things I've started doing is building a press list for the Arts Alliance, because there are a lot of people who write about the arts. I am, obviously, this is something I've been interested in for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always had creative friends, and I love artistic, creative people. I feel like they're my people,
Yeah, right,
Um,
right.
so I'm reading this stuff, and there's a show on I think it's CPTV called the Arts in Connecticut, and
Okay.
it's hosted by Ray Hardman, who is an NPR
Yeah.
commentator, personality, and so he goes all over the state of Connecticut. So, like, I'm building this PR list of things that I find, and the world needs such good news right now. They're going to pick it up. There
Mm-hmm.
are lots of outlets for good news, whether it be regular whatever
Yeah.
newspaper, TV, but there's also people who blog about the arts, and all that. And if you just spend a little time and dig deep, and you can find it, and you can build your own press list. And PRSA.org is Public Relations Society of America,
Yeah.
and you can download a press release template, and just follow the template and fill in the information. And there's plenty of people who would love to be giving their readers and listeners good news right
Yeah.
now. So
One of the big online ones that actually when I worked with my very first client, and I did a lot of online work from a public relations standpoint, was help a reporter out.
yep,
And that's still available as well. So I'm
yeah,
going to put that. I'm going to put PRSA in there as well. But yeah, you just Google, template for a press release, and you'll be able to find a press release template in like a minute.
right,
Um,
right,
and
right.
there's, and you were talking about like the world needs good news, and there's actually like even like Facebook groups or Facebook pages, or social media pages, like Hoopla and Uplift is another one.
Mhm.
So dropping a line, and that's something that I would do on Twitter and on Facebook, Instagram, where I would just be like, hey, this is something that's happening, shoot the press release over, that sort of thing. Or a specific reporter. There's still reporters that are like very communicative, and they interact. And it was funny because one of the very first things that I did for the Greater New Haven Convention and Visitors Bureau, I think it was like Darwin's 200th birthday or something like that. So I pushed out a press release, like there was something going on at the Peabody Museum and all this other stuff. MSNBC picked it up. National Geographic Germany, of all places, picked it up. And then like it was, so it was just like this little blurb. And then all of a sudden I could go back to, my boss and be like, hey, I just got MSNBC, CNN, New York Times, because they talked about Darwin's birthday in New Haven. We were doing like 3 or 4 things, including like a big birthday cake, and it was just like the 10 places that are doing something for Darwin's birthday, and little New Haven, Connecticut was on the map.
That's so awesome.
That was a while ago.
That's a great idea. And it's funny, about a year or so ago, a reporter who writes for the Greenwich Time and some other local, digital newspapers contacted me. He found me, and he taps into me from time to time. In fact, I contributed to a story just a couple of weeks ago. He dropped me a line, and then I always ask, can you please send me the link so I can use it, for my bragging rights? And he always does, and he's such a good guy, and he's happy for the help. And he and I have established a relationship, and that's something that can happen. It's rare. It doesn't happen a lot, but I've also had luck on Twitter reaching out to
so that's where this is like a long okay. That's where I especially like years ago when Twitter was like really, just was like 2009, 2010, and I think that they just were public, out for the public in 2008 maybe. But I would go to Twitter all the time. I still go to Twitter all the time.
Yeah. Twitter is a great resource for news. And that's usually the first place that you hear when breaking news is on Twitter. And I have befriended a number of reporters using Twitter for various things over the years, and they're happy for the for the information. And sometimes they'll put out a call, hey, you know anything about, and then they'll give you their email, and or you just DM them, and then you just if they're interested, they'll call you. One thing I think a lot of people do is being a little bit too aggressive with reporters. Like they have other deadlines and they're working on other stories, and they know what's a fit and what's not. If they don't contact you right away to participate in a story, then just back off. There'll be another one. You don't want to be aggressive with reporters and put any more pressure on them, so just
and I just have to give a quick shout out to local reporting as well. Like, do not dismiss local reporting. Our own New Haven's New Haven Independent, and the radio station and online station that they have is just immensely great. They have wonderful partnerships. They also they produce news. They're on video all the time. I love the report. Like, I literally love the reporters. Lucy and Tom and Karen, and Babs is on at 9 a.m. So I don't get to see her on Tuesday mornings because it's live stream. But when they are on the pulse of, everything that's going on in New Haven. So having a really connected local sources, and TV too, and radio, and when you're talking about your list, definitely understanding that.
Yeah, and there are a lot of freelance writers who write for a number, like they'll specialize in a topic, let's say, the arts and culture, but they will write for many different publications. So that's an opportunity also, if you can find, a way to, connect with these freelance writers, because they can often I don't know that that makes sense necessarily for a local nonprofit, but for something that has like regional reach,
Reach.
that can
Yeah.
make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so
We're
uh,
having a wonderful conversation here. I'm
I
glad.
know, we always do this. I love it. So centers of influence, that's a big one. And I just saw this yesterday, actually. Let me look at my phone. The Connecticut Food Bank and Food Share, because I give to the Connecticut Food Bank every month on
Yeah.
my credit card. And they made an announcement. Actually, it's from the New Haven Register. So the Connecticut Food Bank and Food Share have combined their nonprofits. And I'm guessing, although they've put a positive spin on it, of course, I'm guessing that they did it because of, resources. It's better to combine
Yeah.
than to have two separate organizations. So,
That's
it's like
definitely a big
merger and acquisition in nonprofit world. And Amazon Smile is another great center of influence. So the alliance is on there, and you can, whenever you shop through Amazon Smile,
yeah.
it's tiny. It's 1/2 of 1%. But listen, everybody's shopping online now.
Everybody's shopping on yeah, that's
Yeah,
the thing.
I mean,
Everybody's still shopping on Amazon.
right. And so they have this, this partnership, if you will, with Amazon Smile, and see if you can find other like-minded organizations and work together. It would seem to me that a literacy organization should be working with libraries and
Oh,
schools,
sure.
you
Yeah.
know. So there's always, again, it's the same in off nonprofit world, right? I mean,
Right.
it's the same practices and principles. They just work a little bit differently. And then there's another organization. I know every year somebody I know makes a donation in my name through it's TISBEST, tisbest.com. And you can buy gift cards from Tisbest and make donations. And it's, a list of charities and nonprofits that are, you register with them, and, they go through some,
Right.
they look at you and make sure you're legit and all that. And then there's another one called greatergood.org. I get their emails every
Yeah,
day.
that's great. Good. Yeah.
Yeah, for years. You just click and, it's, for me, it's like almost everything is animal oriented for me. But greatergood.org supports many, many different nonprofits and charities, everything from animals, breast cancer, education. So just go to greatergood.org, find the one that you want, sign up for their daily emails, and all you do is click. And every
Yeah.
time you click, they donate money to the organization. So, again, you have to be established and you have to meet certain criteria for them to have you in their, menu of options. But, look at it. I mean, it's, investigate, see if it makes sense for you, um, and then Google, like, how can we not talk about Google, right? So Google My Business, right? So GMB.
Yes.
Set it up. You don't have to be a small business. It is available and very usable for nonprofit and charity organizations.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the wonderful things about that is, first of all, it enhances your visibility. First of all, when someone looks for you, it'll show up on the right hand side. But also then you can get online testimonials. You get the link and you can send the link to people who have benefited. One of the things I've started doing for Arts Alliance is surveys and getting testimonials, and incorporating the link. So the more that you I mean, I can't remember. It's a very low number. It's less than 5 right now. So obviously the goal is to grow that. And it's so easy. You just copy and paste the link, and put it in your
Right.
newsletter and put it on your website, and get it out there so people can. Word of mouth marketing is first of all the least expensive there is, and it's also the most powerful. Right?
Yeah. No, it's true. It is.
And let's see. So the next one. Okay, so donation enhancing efforts. I've been reading more and more that the donate button should actually say support, not donate.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, apparently it has like oh, I didn't write down the percentage here, but I think it's like a 20% higher success rate. Somehow support feels to people, I guess, more inclusive.
Yeah. Well, it feels more like a
And
partnership, right? It feels like you're
yeah,
you're
yeah.
in the game.
It feels less, like you said before, less of an ask and more of a help, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of organizations are just changing that verbiage from donate to support. So I'm going to look more into that before, I would make recommendations to change that. But I think for some organizations, it might make a lot of sense to do that. And then, of course, the color of your donate button should be very different than the rest of your website.
Yes.
So
Yeah, it should not blend in.
right, that's the last thing you want. Yeah, you want it to really stand out, and you want it, to be in the top, preferably in the upper right-hand corner. And if you are with GuideStar, Charity Navigator, and all that, put that link near that button as well, so people can check you out and have a sense of confidence that you're the real deal. You have a good rating. You're not being sued.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, there was
Like
a
that.
lot of funny stuff going on with nonprofits for a while. So I'm going to say anything that is, adds to your credibility and makes people feel comfortable, giving you their money is probably going to be very helpful and important for you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and one thing, I found this out. I made a donation via PayPal, and PayPal has a new, I guess, I don't know, set of support that they give to nonprofits. So when you make your donation through PayPal, a window will pop up and say, share this with, tell
Yeah,
the world you just made this
this
donation.
donation.
Yeah, and so then you get to share it on social. So it's really wonderful. Of course, that PayPal is doing that, and again, that's word of mouth, and that just feeds the whole communication and marketing and PR funnel, and and your email newsletter. Put the video in there. If 57% of people who look at a video end up donating, I mean, then why not? So you can either embed the video or you can put a link to YouTube.
Yeah.
Highly recommend that everybody nonprofits start a YouTube channel. So I got one the other day. They used Vimeo. I'm not sure why they used Vimeo, but that worked too, right? I mean, that's video.
Well, I mean, the thing is, I know that that Vimeo is definitely up and coming, and it has different, um, different aspects to it than YouTube. And oftentimes, organizations, whether they be nonprofit or not, will have a YouTube and a Vimeo. So it just depends on what the uses are. That's really interesting. I'm thinking about that as a topic.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, video platforms.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, because YouTube,
Yeah.
like Google, YouTube is definitely, YouTube is the number one for everything. It really,
Right.
really is. There's no way around it,
Right.
Including advertising as well. And I know I'm kind of skipping ahead a little bit, but to advertise on YouTube, not Google AdWords, YouTube is so inexpensive.
Right.
Like literally it's single digit cents per click.
Right.
To think, you know, so that's something to think about. Okay.
Yeah, so let's just jump right to
oh, I know this one.
Awesome. Yes. So, you know, like most, everybody tries to be on every platform and it's too much and you don't keep up, and you know, recency and frequency are the keys to success on social. You know, and of course you have to have the buttons on your website and you have to have the buttons on your newsletter, and but it's you know, master one or two before you go nuts, because it is very time consuming. You know, the other thing I just want to say, and then I'll turn it over to you, this is your area of specialty, is, you know, hashtag Giving Tuesday. You know, and anything that has to do with nonprofits, like the story you just told, you know, where, you know, people in Germany called you. It is, if you use the hashtags, I mean, they are global, first of all. And if you use the hashtags correctly, you know, those who follow those hashtags on LinkedIn and Twitter and, you know, Facebook, not so much, Instagram.
They're all over the place. Yeah.
They'll find you, you know, they will find you. And, you know, engage others, right? I mean, there are so many. I mean, I can imagine that, you know, World Central Kitchen must get, I don't know, sometimes I look at their Twitter and they have literally thousands and thousands of comments. You can't possibly, you know, to every single one of them. But you know what? That's a really good problem to have, you know. If you get a few, just, you know, say thank you for your support. I mean, it has to be two-way. It isn't just, you know, broadcasting out, right? It has to be a two-way engagement.
Yeah, for sure. So specifically, I found that Facebook not only has provided such a robust platform for businesses, but also for nonprofits as well, right? So they really set up for engagement no matter what type of organization you have. So in the case of nonprofits, they do allow for peer-to-peer fundraising. They gather up the money, they take a tiny fee, and then they give that to the organization. So one of the big things, one of the first big things that they did from the perspective of fundraising was when it's your birthday. But I know like a week before my birthday, or maybe even 2 weeks before my birthday, they're like, hey, your birthday's coming up. Do you want to start raising money for, you know, for any particular organization? So you can, again, if you have your organization in GuideStar, and then also Greater Good as well, right? So making sure that you set up not only so that humans can find you, but algorithms can find you and social media can find you, and then they start bringing in those organizations as well. So again, when you have a Facebook page for your organization, which I hope you do have, Facebook sets it up so if you are a nonprofit, you click that and you go through the steps that Facebook gives you. And then you also, I think you submit, I think you submit like your 501c3 or your certification, that sort of thing.
Right.
So, you know, then you're definitely like, Facebook's like, okay, check off that. And then I think your bank account as well. So all of that gets set up, and you can have a donate button there. You can, you know, put your all your information in the profile, the services you have, all of that information. So making sure that you have a really, just like with Google Business, right? You had talked about Google Business, and I always put Google Business in the social media column. Like there's Google, which is definitely in the search column, and then Google Business is like the first thing that I talk about in the social media column when I present. So Google Business, and then people don't really think about LinkedIn as utilizing LinkedIn for an organization page so much, but I do. When I'm working with my nonprofit organizations, I tell them to make a page on LinkedIn, because you are talking to donors, you are talking to peers, you are talking to potential potential board members and advisors and volunteers. And then you're also, again, when you're talking about your alum, so depending on what kind of organization, if you're talking about alum that have gone through a certain program and they're successful and they want to tell their story, you want to give them the opportunity to have that platform in order to do so. So I think that those are definitely the big three. And I know that you've done the same too, is really kind of going through each of the platforms, right? Because there's so many and there's more coming on board, right? So people have asked me, well, what about TikTok? And I'm like, if you can tell your story on TikTok and that's where your audience is, then yes. It's more the process than it is the platforms. And then it's like the process being, who are you trying to reach? Do you have your story? Do you have the resources available? You were talking about video, right? Are you set up to be able to do short videos? And usually the answer is yes, because you
have a phone.
Especially now, you can do a raw, video on your phone and then enhance it with tools. I'm playing with tools right now. I upload the video and I'm like, oh, let me play with this. Or even if you do something that's kind of like a slideshow, right? That has fades, right? So there's fades and out, and there's like photos, and then there's fade, and you put the background music, and then boom, you're set.
Right.
So, and I know you had mentioned, Twitter as well. And again, thinking about, people are like, well, there's so many. I just named off 5, 7 platforms.
Right.
But again, the thing is just understanding what your resources are and understanding that if Facebook is something that works for you, because it's like, well, we're doing peer-to-peer on there, that's where we're telling all our stories, we're doing live streams, we're putting videos up, we're utilizing stories. Oh my goodness. So here's another thing too that I've talked about from the perspective of business, but basically all around. Facebook Facebook now has Facebook Business, and it has something called the Creator Studio, where you can create your post for both Facebook and Instagram.
Oh, that's awesome.
At this, so you can create them, you can schedule them, you can put it in the Facebook news feed, you can put it in Facebook story. And that's the other thing too. Stories, both on Facebook and on Instagram. And Instagram has IGTV as well. So if you're talking about video, you can do video for Instagram. There's Reels and IGTV. So you can continuously make little short videos and stories and post them out on Instagram and Facebook at the same time.
Right.
And people are viewing these, and Facebook and Instagram will push those, it's their new products. So those will be pushed out.
Yeah.
So you always see when you have your phone, right, and you're scrolling through, and then you have like a horizontal line of, story, reel. Then you hit that, and then it's over.
And then they just play one after each other.
Yeah, one after the other, and they're down the rabbit hole with you.
Right. And then they donate, because 57% of people who watch
watching the videos,
we'll donate. Right.
Yeah.
So something you said sparked an idea too, which is the role of the board and your volunteers with social. You can make the ask. Please be sure to follow all of our channels and share,
Exactly.
like, share, and comment. Because that helps build the algorithm, first of all, especially if you're just starting out.
Yeah.
But also, depending upon everybody's skill set and what their life outside of this nonprofit board or volunteer work is, I mean, they have, the numbers, start getting into the thousands, perhaps tens of thousands. So you can really, for less than a minute a day, all of your board members can be, supporting your online efforts very easily,
Yeah.
and I think that is a role that the board definitely should play, because it's, obviously part of building the mission and getting the word out. And, I mean, it takes 3 seconds. So, like, why not?
Yeah. So I think we basically covered a lot of stuff. And okay. Yeah.
Oh, I just wanted, to show this. So this is something I picked up a couple of years ago off of, I don't even know where I got this, but UNICEF said, liking us on Facebook and we'll vaccinate 0 children. There's something called slacktivism, where people get lazy and they just like, but they never ever contribute or do anything. Yeah. So just, don't let that happen. Right. And then here's just there are literally thousands of them, but these are the ones that are, pretty popular, free digital tools. So, I want to say one thing about Screencast-O-Matic, if people aren't aware of that. You can make videos for free, for under 15 minutes is free. And then you can, messages, you can do interviews, you can do a whole bunch of things on Screencast-O-Matic. And it's an amazing tool that has quite a bit of flexibility, even though it's free. So that's if a video tool where you can, like, show your screen and, you do it on your computer or your phone. So I just wanted to point that out. And of course, Canva, like, how could you not love Canva?
Oh my goodness. Well, and Canva has, like, video capability as well now, a little bit, like video background and that sort of thing.
Right.
They've been doing a lot of posts now with more movement in the background, right? So, because when people see movement, they're like, "What? Like, what's that?" And you can a little longer, right?
Right.
And it's a nice, simple third-party platform as well.
Yeah, and they take all the guesswork out of it. I mean,
their blog is
just
fantastic. They have a really good informative blog. I don't use them. It's so funny because I'm always like, I don't use Hootsuite, but I go to their blog for information a lot.
Oh, you should. Yeah, I get their emails. They are such they have such a deep knowledge base for just about every platform possible, and they produce case studies and how-tos and best practices. Yeah, Hootsuite is just this amazing vault of information. And then, of course, PRSA, right? I've mentioned before, Public Relations Society, and SurveyMonkey. Like, survey your constituents, survey, what do you think? What do you want to see? Depending upon, of course, what your nonprofit, focuses on, your survey is obviously going to be different. But what I started is every time there's a workshop, the paid participants get a survey.
Yeah.
And it's been really helpful, and we ask for testimonials there, and we're getting them. It works.
Yep, it does. It's so funny, and you know what the thing is that's so funny about that is, it's that it boils down to that very simple concept of asking you shall receive, right?
Yeah. And if
And
they don't want to, they won't. But
yeah, but oftentimes,
yeah,
you'll get feedback. People love to give feedback. Sometimes
right.
they don't even need to be asked. But yes, do ask.
Ask anyway,
Yeah,
just in case. Right,
exactly.
right,
Exactly.
just in case. Um, and so, okay, my last screen. Please be in touch with me if you're interested in working with me or Giulia, and we are happy to help any nonprofit in need.
Yeah. And I'll definitely have you back on too. You're a regular guest. Thank you so much. That was so much helpful information. I just want to let everybody know I'm actually going to take the shares there. Oh, you did that. Look at
Yeah, I
you.
just did that.
So I want to thank you. I want to thank everybody. We're going to be putting this on nhbknown.com in just a little bit. So that'll be out today. If you sign up for our newsletter, you will get a notification. You'll get pinged that this is up. Digital Media Sync is on Facebook Live, on the Known Co-working Facebook Live and Known Co-working YouTube every Tuesday at around 8:30, depending on the weather and what Julia's camera decides to do. Next week, I'm actually going to be talking about some visual hacks that you can do with Canva and other programs. So I'm going to be checking in on my Digital Media Sync group on Facebook to see what tips others have. So make sure if you have a tip that you drop it. And then I'll see you next Tuesday. Again, Randye, thank you so much.
Thank
We'll
you.
see you all next week.
Yep. Have a great week, everyone. Stay warm.
I know, right? And